Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Persuading for Profits. We are the podcast that gives you the sales and marketing persuasion tools that you need to go out and rock your sales career. We are sponsored by RadioUpdate.com, your one-stop shop for all things radio industry online. So we do appreciate them hosting us and sponsoring us. And this is a very special episode today. We have two rock stars, one of them literally, right, in the marketing and music and entertainment world. Got Mr. Justin Guarini, and we got Kim Walsh Phillips from the Elite Speakers Network joining us today. Guys, welcome to the podcast.
Hey. Thanks for having us. We're so happy to be with you.
Oh my gosh, it's so cool to have you guys here. And I got to tell you, I'm a little bit of a marketing nerd. So between the two of you, Kim, you are the biggest celebrity for me. Because I remember back in the day when you kind of burst on the scene when you wrote that book with Dan Kennedy. Mm-hmm. And I think probably you, and probably maybe Russell Brunson are two people most responsible for dragging him into the 21st century.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. It was an incredible moment. For sure.
That's very cool. And Mr. Guarini, of course, everybody remembers you from season 1 of American Idol. Mm-hmm. To be honest, you were up against a Texas girl there, so you were a little bit outgunned. But you still, you held your own. You did really well, of course, and you have a remarkable career. You have a new book coming out, too, on top of everything else. Yeah. And it's like, man, great to have you guys on here.
Well, you know the way to start an interview, right? But just flattering us to the top to the bottom. I'm like, yes, yes, and more yes.
84% of our bodies are made up of applause, so you'll know.
Well, that's good to know. I've had, excuse my setting here today. I've had some internet issues, so we're kind of rolling. If I knock my background over, forgive me.
Looks great.
But thank you. Let's get into this then. So we're hosted on RadioUpdate.com. So this really started off as a podcast really to help radio people in selling. It's a tough gig out there. It's always been a tough gig doing radio sales. I don't know if either of you guys have done that, man. It's a grind. You have to be passionate about it. You have to love what you do. But of course, everything here applies to salespeople all over. Mm-hmm. And so there's always that tension in radio sales between branding and direct response. Which do you do? Radio kind of sells branding. But we're big Dan Kennedy fans here, so there's the direct response aspect of it too. So I guess the first thing to kind of ask you is, like, if I were a small business owner, and we're going to kind of get to what you do exactly shortly here, but what would you counsel somebody if I'm like I have a car dealership and somebody's approaching me with radio advertising? Do you counsel me to go for branding or to find a way to make that a direct response thing? What is your opinion on that?
This is what's so interesting of how I got from where I was to this conversation right now, right? My background prior to meeting Dan Kennedy was actually in the branding space. It was in the PR, the celebrity. I was putting on celebrity events. I was growing media coverage. I was doing that whole world of positioning and branding. And then I got into the Dan Kennedy world where everyone's like, things can be ugly. It doesn't matter what it looks like. It doesn't matter your brand. It just needs to be direct response. And I was like, what if we combine both those worlds? What if we actually leverage the power of branding, name recognition, celebrity positioning with a direct response message that would actually drive measurable results? That's where we can have true magic. And that's why I believe I was so successful in applying Dan's principles to social media, because you need to have both elements to work on social. You can't just be direct response and you can't just be branding. So as a small business owner, you need both. Just like a great dating relationship, typically you're going to go from first recognizing somebody to getting to know them, trust them, like them, saying yes to the date, first date, second. Like there's a relationship build. The same is true with our marketing. If we think it's like one and done, it's never going to work. But on radio, people are going to start to hear about you, know you, like you, trust you, and that way they're aware of who you are. So that's the brand. But then you need to have a strong call to action. So in the moment when they need you, they know how to get a hold of you, and there's an urgency around it. So I believe in combining both things to make you incredibly effective.
Yeah, and that's kind of the trick of all of it, because it's easy to go all in. Oh yeah, it has to be all direct response all the time. But then you look at it and it's like, well, there's a lot of companies that just do branding and are really successful. So it's hard. How do you you handle that. And of course, you guys are with the Elite Speakers Network, and I really want to talk about this because I think this is an understated way to get people to get business and to establish your brand and make an offer, right? Is by going out there and speaking. And radio is a medium that lends you credibility just by being on it. But every room that has a speaker at the front of it also has that ability to have that same power of a medium, right?
Yeah.
And I know, Justin, that you have a book coming out. I'm sorry, Center about Confidence. What's the exact title for that called?
One quick thing before he says that. I want to set this up for this conversation. A stage is not just a physical location that you step on. Radio is another stage. Anytime you're getting in front of somebody else's audience, we're on a stage right now being on your podcast. So
Right.
every single one of these opportunities are stages. So radio is absolutely another stage, and that applies to all the things we're talking about today.
Yeah, and the name of the book is Center Stage Confidence. And to talk about branding, which is just the story people tell about you when you're not in the room. It's one oversimplification of it. But with that story, with the branding, with everything that you did, with everything that people do in radio sales or sales in general, there's obviously a story, a brand, a whole set of a system of actually getting your message out there, creating that message. But where I like to step in and where we put our brands together, if you will, is that whether I'm on stage in front of 30 million people like I was on live national television, or I'm on a podcast with you, or remember back in the day, teleseminars, whatever that is, right? Whatever that is, those are all stages. And it doesn't matter if you're singing or selling, the same principles apply when it comes to taking that message that you so beautifully craft and then delivering that message clearly and confidently to an audience, because your body is telling a story, whether you recognize it or not. Your face is telling a story. In radio, it is the most evident because it's isolated. Your voice is telling a story. And when you learn to, it's like if you've ever been to like Denny's or IHOP or whatever, if you have kids or grandkids and you go, and what do? They give you a kids menu and they give you 3 crayons. Maybe you'll get a yellow or a red, a blue if you're super lucky. So you take your kids menu, you spread it out, and you realize, oh my goodness, there are things that might not be blue or yellow or red, but I'm just going to color anyway, right? And we color and we make the picture what it is. Now, imagine going to the Denny's and they say, hey, here's something we got for you. Instead of these 3 crowns, I'm going to give you the box of 126 crayons. And imagine you knew what to do with those 126 crayons. Imagine the beautiful colors, the beautiful shading, the depth, how much clearer and more beautiful and realistic that picture is. Well, when you know how to use your vocal expression, your facial expression, your physical expression, and really bring out all the colors of your unique palette, that is when you have people who jump off the stage, who you cannot help but to listen to on the radio, who you can't stop watching. And so taking that story that you create and then being able to use all of the colors of your expression are where we come together in the Elite Speakers Network, and we turn sales into something that is not just a presentation, but it's a performance. And it's not just selling, it's serving. And it is actually something that is entertaining as well as educational.
Yeah, that whole idea of infotainment is something I think that's overlooked. And I think a lot of people, may see your stuff, and I think it's great. I don't want to dig into this a little bit more here because, Marshall McLuhan said the medium is the message, right? So just because you're on TV and on the radio and on the podcast or whatever, or an influencer, you have all this credibility just because you're there.
Yeah.
But man, when you have a really good talk that you have confidence in, that you know is going to sell. So I guess one of my questions is, how much is confidence that something that you generate on your own is and also how much is the confidence just knowing that you have a great presentation that if you just kind of stay out of the way and deliver it, it's going to sell for you?
Well, that's a question that actually we have to ask some questions before we get to those 2 questions.
Okay.
And the first one is, what is confidence? Now, a lot of times we see in the media, speaking of infotainment, in entertainment, in sports, politics, we'll see someone come on and appear really super strong, and everyone's looking at them. And more often than not, we confuse arrogance with confidence, especially in sales. You know those salespeople who come out and say, you need to have this, you need to do it, and they get in your face and they're aggressive.
That makes me stressed out even.
Yeah,
like
exactly, right? But you understand, but
I
like we
don't
know,
like it.
yeah, we know
I
that,
know.
right? And it's
I know, I don't
and
like
it's
it.
this arrogant energy. Now, arrogance is the energy that squashes other people down, says, I'm smarter than you, I'm more than you, you don't know. And it is this repellent energy.
Yeah.
Right? You want to get away from people like that. And yet confidence, on the other hand, is an attractive energy. Confidence is, at the end of the day, the root word of confidence is confide, which means to trust. So when you have self-confidence, aka self-confidence, it just means you trust yourself. You trust your product. You trust your message. You trust that what you are doing is actually going to not just help you, but help the people that you choose to serve. So then when we understand that that's what that is, when you truly trust in yourself, it's just like getting on the phone with your best friend. You're like, oh, hey, man, I only got 5 minutes. Let's just chat. And then all of a sudden you look up and an hour has gone by. Why? Because you're not trying to convince anybody of anything. There's a natural, attractive flow in the conversation. You trust that you are who you are. You don't need to do, they trust it. And the same thing happens in sales. When we take a sales conversation, whether you're talking to a car dealership, like you're talking about, whatever that is, and you trust yourself, first and foremost, you create an attractive energy. Now, we get to the questions that you're talking about. How much is it the presentation or the skill set that you build in yourself? Or the good thing, like riding a bike, confidence is something that you can learn. It's more often you have to unlearn things, but go ahead.
Yeah, so it sounds like the first step is just to make the decision that you're going to be confident. And even if you don't know how to be confident, you're going to learn how to do it. And I think a lot of people still see themselves as the 3 crayon person. Oh, I can't handle the 128 crayons, I'm just the 3 crayon guy. And so I guess maybe the first sales job is just on that person or on yourself if you're trying to be more confident, right?
Yeah, I think we talk about this mindset shift, and oftentimes people feel like they need to go from I am not confident to I am the king of the world, and that's not believable, right? We cannot go from I am this to this. So what we say is start to get curious. What would be something I would do today if I was going to be effective in this way? So you might even say something like, I'm going to get curious to see if I shared this message with one person today, what difference would that make? Would they respond well? What would their reaction be? I'm not saying I'm going to do it well. I'm not saying it's going to be effective. I'm just saying I'm going to get curious to research what the results would look like. And when we start operating in curiosity, we start to be a researcher versus a judge. And that allows us to start to pull together data that reinforces our next step. And it is so much more, whenever we are trying to shift our beliefs, every single person listening right now, if the belief is so unbelievable to you, do not try to hold it in, because it's not going to work. Give yourself a small shift forward that is going to just say, what if that's not true? Or what if I got curious? Or how might that be not true? Or what would I need to do differently in order for that to change? Just start to ask questions, and that will actually retrain your amygdala. It would actually retrain the pre-programming we have, which is exactly what we need to do, because we've all heard a really talented speaker, so good, they're engaging, they're enticing, and then they get to the offer at the end and their whole energy changes. They get shaky, they start talking fast, and I've worked with some of the biggest names in business who struggle with this, that literally they've gotten to a point in their business where they don't even make the pitch anymore. They send someone on their team up. If you watch Tony Robbins, he's amazing and he's a mindset coach. He typically is not the one doing the pitch in any of his events. So you're not a bad speaker or you're not an effective human if you struggle with this. Very normal to have this be in place, but we just start working on a journey to make a change.
That is awesome. Most people tell you to act as if, and
Right,
you're
no.
even just saying just act what if. That is such a cool. That's so much more accessible, right?
Yeah.
That's a very cool thing. So I want to talk to you guys really quickly. You're doing some master classes right now, right? I've seen your Facebook page. You have a really cool. What do you call it? An effective talk, or you can do all these things. You can get to the front of the room. You can be confident. You can do all these things. But you guys have broken down a talk into 5 essential parts that is quite honestly brilliant. It's like that also makes it really acceptable to somebody. It's like I can do this part if I can find this part and this part and this part. What are the 5 parts, or what do you kind of, just for guys right now? We have a lot of salespeople, especially in the radio world. Your job is going out into the community. It's doing a lot of stuff that isn't sales related. It's building relationships. It's a slow sale. You have to get people to warm up to the ideas of advertising on the radio. So getting in front of the room and giving talks. What are kind of some of the parts that you need in an effective talk to deliver it and get results from it, instead of just wasting time at the front of the room?
So I want you to think about it like this, like an Uber ride, okay? And if you ever take an Uber or a Lyft and you have a desire to go somewhere, right? Like, so your audience has a desire to go somewhere. They're somewhere right now, and there's somewhere they want to go, okay? And so they have a desire, they have a need, they have an interest. Now, think about, that's what's happening when you show up in front of an audience. They have a desire, a need, and an interest. They are looking for, as we all are, they are looking for someone to transport them from point A to point B, right? And as the Uber driver, we've all had moments where we've gotten into a car of an Uber, and the driver's like, we actually had this happen recently. We were in Las Vegas. It was literally 120 degrees. We get picked up by the Uber driver. Her windows are open. We're like, what? She had no air conditioning.
Oh, no.
And she had a face mask on, and we're like, what's happening? And also, she was saying how it was broken. She was trying to fix it. She didn't really know if the car was going to work. Like, we were so uncomfortable. There was like, there is no way we're going to follow her on a journey of where we need to go. We actually were like, we're going to shorten it. We're just going to go over here. Thanks so much. Bye. And as a guide, we did not see her as a guide. We didn't want her to guide. You've gotten other times we've gotten in the car and it's like, hello, it's great to see you. Is the temperature okay? Awesome. It's going to be a great ride. Looks like we have this traffic, but I know a different route. Now I feel super comfortable because I'm like, this person knows what they're doing. I'm willing to follow them on the journey. Think of your speech that way. Your audience needs to feel confident that you are the right guide for them that day. Now, how do you do that? You want to first identify who the audience is, what their needs are, and that they know in the talk that is what your talk is going to be about. They need to understand that that's what we're addressing. And then you're going to clearly demonstrate that by starting with a story in the very beginning that's going to demonstrate to that audience where your life was like before, what's the discovery you made, and what is life like now. When they hear that in the beginning of your talk and know, oh, okay, you were like I was before, maybe I can do this. Oh, this was the thing that you discovered? I haven't tried that before. And then, oh, that's what your life looks like now? I want that too. Now your audience is like, dang, it's like this person read my mind. That's when you start going into the other elements of your talk to show them, okay, well, here's what the solution looks like. But that most important part, people think it's the close. The most important part is like your first 5 to 7 minutes to capture the audience's attention, connect with them, and make them think, okay, I'm going to follow this person to a solution, and gets them to say yes to the sale before you've even made the offer.
That is so great. I see why you guys are such a great team now, right? Because it's infotainment. The power of story, right, is what pulls them in. And is that how you guys got together to form this? I mean, where did y'all's company idea come from?
Yeah, it started with the pandemic, and we were both into this app called Clubhouse, which, if you've never heard of it before, was basically kind of like, oh my goodness, I remember back in the day a thing called Blog Talk Radio, where basically everybody could have their own radio
He
station.
always talks about it in past tense. I'm still on there. I have a weekly show at 6:30 in the morning on Fridays that I wake up every week to do.
I don't understand. That's probably why, because it is
I'm still on there.
That's fact. So that being said, it is a online platform where everyone can basically have their own stage, create their own stage. It's an audio-only platform.
Yeah.
And so we were on there at the height of the pandemic. Everybody was on there. And the cool thing about it was this even playing field where you could be in the room with the who's who. You could be up on the stage. You could create your own stages. Everybody had their place to be if they wanted to be there. And so Kim and I found ourselves in this high-level marketing room. And there's this weird sort of like cross intersection that we hit where we both are marketing nerds, but also musical theater nerds. And so we found ourselves on stage speaking in the same room. Kim reached out and said, hey, I'd love to interview you. And then I ended up hosting something for her. And then Kim had a big online event and I was the MC for it. And as I'm listening to what Kim was talking about, because I'd been on my entrepreneurial journey, I was like, oh my goodness, this is perfect for my coaching program. And so I asked one of the staff, hey, can I have some? And I start going along in the workbook, and it's a big 3-day event, big launch event. And I'm in and Kim sees me writing in the notebook. She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, this is perfect. I've got a coach. She said, you got a coaching program? I'm like, what? And I became a client. And then I started coming in and working with some of Kim's clients on what we're talking about, how to show up confidently, how to express yourself, how to just be authentic and to tell stories. Facts tell, stories sell, how to tell better stories. And then we found ourselves on a boat in the Mediterranean, didn't we?
Yeah, we were on, I was recruited to be on Bravo's Below Deck Sailing, and I brought Justin Guarini on as my guest. And while we were on the show, we end up coaching all of the crew on their messaging, their purpose, all the things. And a producer pulled us aside and said, do you guys do this together? And we're like, yes. And we're like, we should try that. And so we did. And we were working together now for 4 years. And it's been amazing. And we've been able to take the same thing that has made me successful for all these years, which is speaking on stage, same has made him successful for all these years, performing and entertaining, combine them to actually create a system to grow your business by speaking on stage. And it's been unbelievable to be able to see it work, not just for us, but like we have one coaching client and he focuses on college prep, getting kids into college. And he, just by shifting his story, it wasn't even his whole thing, his story, he was able to increase his sales 496%. Wow. It was just one little shift. And then we have somebody in IT who's usually like really reserved. We brought out his humor and he sold clients into recurring revenue, which is our favorite. 6 clients at $3,000 a month each, which equals $18,000 in monthly revenue. And now he goes every month, starts it knowing he's going to bring $18K. And like you shift your story, you shift your focus. You can take one story and use it as a way that you can generate clients without ever having to do a hardcore sales pitch.
That is so great. People, I think people all the time who are really good salespeople just in everyday life, like, oh, I can't sell. Oh, I could never do sales. Oh, you know what I'm saying? To them, it's something different. And so when you can say that sales is just really being an extension of your authentic self, I mean, now, as far as what you're teaching here, you mentioned an IT guy, you mentioned college prep people. Of course, you're talking about radio salespeople. Is there an industry this doesn't work for? Because a lot of people say, oh, I'm just a 3-color crayon person, and so they kind of check themselves out. And other people say, oh, well, that works for that industry, but not for me. What is your experience with that?
We don't work with dreamers, so I would say we do. Well, really, we work with, we are very clear, which excludes people. If somebody doesn't have a business and they just want to be a speaker, that's not our thing. Like we literally are about growing business, so those aren't our people. And there's a lot of speaker coaches who do work with them. We don't. And then another thing is if you're in e-commerce and you're not part of the brand, you're just like selling things, typically that doesn't make sense because you speaking on stage is not going to be a driver for the business. But so really who we focus with is existing business owners who have clients, who are used to growing their entire business via word of mouth and referral. Those are our people because they are great at what they do. They provide an awesome and incredible and amazing service, but they haven't been able to scale beyond physical labor, going to get a lead or having a one-on-one conversation. And we take them, flip it on its head, and turn it into a message that can go out to a lot of people at one time and multiply their sales.
That is awesome. So y'all, and I know y'all do this too. You teach people not only how to give the talk, but you also teach people how to book the gig too, right?
Mm-hmm. We do, yeah, how to create partnerships with people who already have audiences in order to get in front of their audience, be the instant celebrity, authority, and expert, just like you do with radio, and give a message that converts. So we have one client, Io Haynes, and she coaches women just on, going after their goals and dreams. She used our system since it's been, I think, 7 months. She's gotten on 32 podcasts, and just that alone, no paid advertising. She was able to launch a brand new coaching business and multiply her revenue just from getting on a pot. So it doesn't even have to be TV. It doesn't have to be a first in-person stage. You just literally need to find the right fit audience, get in front of them, tell your story, and you grow your business.
Man, that is awesome. Okay, so people want to find out more about y'all, get some of the materials. I downloaded, by the way, the what is it? The $1 Million Talk template. That is awesome. You go out there with just that. You can actually just start, honestly, armed with just that. You can start making some changes right away.
That's the whole point. Yeah, because again, sales is service, and we are about value. We are about return on investment.
Yeah.
And look, the thing about being a guide is that you want to guide people, meet them where they're at, and then guide them to the next logical, easiest step for them to make.
Yeah.
And that's why
great.
when you click on milliontalktemplate.com, you download a template that gives you, especially if you have a business, if you have clients, you're used to being out there, you're used to telling your story, it gives you a blueprint, a map to be able to follow to instantly start getting a return on the investment of just downloading, of just saying yes that first time. And based on that, because again, we're all about ROI, we're all about implementation, you have so much information. We all have access to all the information we could ever possibly need. We don't need more information. We need more implementation.
And transformation.
All the Asians, our two favorite Asians, implementation and transformation. And so that's why we then, once you download the template at milliontalktemplate.com, then there you can find out about working with us even further and going even deeper into this process.
Yeah, and you'll get the full thing. We don't hold anything back. We believe in giving massive value up front. We're literally giving you our entire speech script template that you can use right now to create a talk that converts. And you can, for people who sell radio, you can use this template to create effective advertising for your clients. Yeah. This is a thing that they could use. Flipping this same thing could be a 60-second, a 30-second, a 2-minute, a 5-minute interview. You can use the exact same thing with your client so you can leverage to generate more revenue.
That is great. I didn't even think about that. We do talk about that a lot, but condensing this to a 60-second thing, a 30-second thing that you play over and over.
Yeah, we do it on purpose because at the end of the day, it's a blueprint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just like any blueprint, you just follow the steps. But we've designed it to be 30-second, 60-second. If it's a 40-minute speech that you're giving, if it's a 90-minute workshop, the blueprint works when you know how to work it and then work it.
Yeah.
That is awesome. So it's milliontalktemplate.com, right?
That's right.
And of course, Kim can be found on Clubhouse and probably MySpace too, right?
At Kim Walsh Phillips. The Kim Walsh Phillips.
Yeah, and at Justin Guarini.
Oh, very cool. So I'm an Uber driver. I'm in the car. I'm telling you, I'm a sales guy. I sell radio sales. And you have 30 seconds before you're about to get out of the car. And I ask you, what advice do you have for me? What would you tell me?
Who do you want to serve? who's your favorite client you've ever had? Tell me who that person is, and then tell me what you're doing to get more of that person. That's what we're going to talk about. Because instead of doing all the things, do the one thing. 20% of your work is producing 80% of your profits. Let's figure out what that is and spend all your time doing that one thing.
And that scares people because they want to serve everyone. Most people in sales, most people who have a product, a service, even just a message, they want to serve everybody. And that's wonderful. That is a wonderful heart-based thing that we love about our industry and the good people in our industry. However, when it comes to going further, faster, when it comes to making transformation that you want to make, it's all about getting very specific on that who is and going after that who, because again, when you focus that just 20% of your effort on that specific person who you know is your right fit person, who can afford to work with you, who will go all in with you, who will do the things you tell them to do, which we know if you're in sales and product and service, so many people won't. Part of the frustration is they won't do it, right?
Implementate, right?
Right, yeah, the implementers, the doers, not the dreamers. Then, oh my goodness, then that is when you're going to see and go further and faster in your results.
Yeah, and you guys did that too. When I asked, you said, we don't deal with these people. We don't deal with these people.
Call them out.
And that's so powerful. Man, that's great advice. Thank you guys.
I mean, my stomach hurts every time I say it. So I want to be clear. If you're kind of freaked out by specializing, it just means you're normal and you're on the right track.
Yeah, and that's one of the foundational principles of direct marketing, right? People always, well, who's my audience? Well, everybody. Not really, right?
Yeah.
So that is very powerful. Thank you guys so much for being on the show today. I appreciate y'all coming on here. Anything, so it's milliontalktemplate.com, right? Mm-hmm. Very cool. They can track you down there. And otherwise, we will see you guys next time on Persuading for Profits. Thank y'all for being here. Have a great week.